Hello, everyone, and welcome to the GearyCast, a familiar yet unfamiliar voice back with you after what seems like a long time. Actually, I'm Alex Ashmore. I'm not Matt Harrison. I'm not Luke Chambers. I'm not Nick Bell. I'm not Chris Marquez. But I am joined alongside me today. Chris Marquez, you look like you're basking in the Benalmádena sun. It looks warm. Is it warm?
It's not cold, but it's windy. Maybe you should tell your boss to give you some time off. What are you work? Are you on 24-hour shifts or?
No, we do get some time off, but unfortunately is the wrong word. It's the Madrid derby this weekend in Spain in La Liga, so it's all stations go ahead of that. So I've been very busy, but yes, you are listening to the GearyCast on the Sports Social Podcast Network. I am Alex Ashmore, of course, and we've got a game to talk about. It is Friday. Chris is with me. Chris did record this podcast yesterday, didn't you, Chris? What happened there?
Well, yes. As you all noticed, the podcast comes out a bit later. Usually we post it on Friday morning. But as yesterday, me and Nick were supposed to record the podcast, but due to unfortunate events, Nick couldn't make it. So I spent the whole afternoon yesterday finding very interesting guests. I found two with the likes of Liam Bainbridge of the Spanish Segunda show, and Alvaro, a guy who worked recently for SER Malaga and for Radio Marca Malaga. And we did an amazing show. And when we finished, I said, oops, looks like I didn't press the record button. So here we are.
Well,
doing it twice.
Take two.
Yeah,
a little disclaimer on my side as well. If you're watching this on YouTube, you'll see, as Chris put it, a Gangnam style reflection in my eyes of what looks like I'm wearing some very cool sunglasses, but it's just a reflection of my screen on my glasses. I can take my glasses off, but it looks weird without them. So if you're watching on YouTube, I do apologize. But yes, let's get into, before we talk about this weekend's fixture, let's get into some news. We've had an update on the Ricardo Horta case. Now, last week, we were talking about this just off air there, Chris, about a deadline that we've been set, or the two clubs have been set to come to an agreement. And, it seems to be that this deadline hopefully it will work in Malaga's favour, that we get some money. But it feels like we're getting the short straw in this deal, maybe?
Well, what happened basically is that both Braga as Malaga had to go to Geneva to the TAS, where there's a department called the TOT. I'm not really into this TOT and TAS and sports law, sports court cases. But the TAS is the big organization of sports laws. And what they basically said is that they want both the clubs to come to an agreement together. They have 10 days for that. If it doesn't come to agreement, they will put out a verdict. But that could leave Malaga without money. Although the FIFA said Malaga is in its right, it's a bit strange, and I don't understand the best of it. They're probably very smart people working there who know everything about laws. But it seems that Braga is getting what they wanted.
It's perhaps maybe a message then to any clubs who can't afford to pay for players. Do what Braga did, and then about 8-9 years down the line, you won't have to pay any of it. It seems a bit ridiculous to me. Hopefully we do get some money from it. Hopefully, because originally we were owed a lot more money, weren't we, Chris?
Yes, it was 8 or 9 million euros, but for every day they didn't pay Malaga, they have a fine that they have to pay of 1,500 euros a day. I think the estimated amount is now 13 million euros. But there's a big but, because they have to come to an agreement, And the 30 million euros is not only for Malaga, they also have to share with another person who has the rights, 50% of the rights of Horta. So it would leave Malaga with 7 or 8 million euros. And according to Radio Marca Malaga, is that they have an agreement. It has been quiet around it for quite a few days now. But there seems like a first agreement of 2.9 million euros for Malaga.
Which at the end of the day is money, but it's hard to feel. It's easy to feel perhaps hard done by in this one, I think.
Yes. And what maybe hurts even more is that we sold Roberto last summer to Braga for I think 2.5 million euros, something like that. It feels a bit wrong, doesn't it? If the FIFA says you're right, and then I don't know.
It does. It feels cheated is probably the right word to use in this situation where, you kind of feel like, at the end of the day, 7 or 8 million for a club like Malaga now is a lot of money. And, we could have used that. I'm not saying it would have been be all and end all, and we would have got a superstar striker that would have scored us 30 goals this season. But it's better to have 8 million than 2 million. So it's a little bit disappointing, I would say.
Well, it's a bit the future of the club, isn't it? Staying where we are, or maybe taking the step a bit upwards and looking more higher on the table or higher on the ranks, or be able to grow. I don't know, get players, better players. Although all the money is not being used for signing players, but maybe a part it's restructuring of a club, and 8 million euros for Malaga is a lot of money.
Yeah, exactly. And like you said, not just signings, it's the academy that we've had built, whether that needs work, it's paying off debts, it's paying off unpaid bills that we perhaps have, it's upkeep of the stadium, it's groundsmen, it's kit staff, it's coaches, there's a whole lot that goes into running a football club, and that extra 6 million goes a long way.
Even the maintenance of La Rosaleda, which costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
So
it's a shame. It's a shame. Hopefully, Malaga are able to, well, both clubs are able to come to an agreement, and Malaga will be able to get some money out of the case. Moving on to some more positive news. We've had some updates from training. Davide Rubia and Rocco Baturina are back in training. Kevin has stepped up with his recovery. He's not back on the pitch yet, but a step in the right direction. Chris, I mean, for me, I feel like we're yet to see Rocco's best this season. But I think going forward, especially with the long season that we have, it's always good to have these players back and fit and healthy, and hopefully we can start to see a little bit more from Rocco.
Well, Rocco had quite a good pre-season, but then when the season started, I don't know if his quality is enough, or I don't see a player in him which will give you 20 goals or even 10. Maybe he's a player that works pretty well with a 4-4-2, like a player that keeps the ball and passes it on, or maybe as a pinch hitter, bringing him in the 88th minute and then hoping to get a chance. And I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's always good, especially when you rely on. It's always dangerous when you rely on one striker to score all your goals, and at the moment it's been the one who's been leading the line in terms of strikers this season. So it's always good to have that support. So hopefully, once he's back fit, he can start playing, start scoring some goals. Last little bit of news before we move on to the game against Elche at the weekend. We've had a few kickoff announcements. Tenerife has been confirmed the 24th on Thursday at 8 o'clock at Spanish time, and Eibar has been confirmed 27th Sunday at 2 o'clock. Now, I think this has probably been the one gripe, especially for mainly listeners of the Gearycast who are travelling from abroad to come and watch these games, that we don't know when these games are. Obviously, a midweek game against Tenerife makes it slightly more difficult if you are going over, but good to get these in advance. It's about a month now. So, should we talk about Elche, Chris?
Yeah, when we thought we were recording last night, we had a massive talk about how important it is, and for foreign fans to know to have these dates and how crazy it is that a big company like La Liga, which is probably one of the biggest companies in Spain, can't get fixtures for a whole season. I mean, in Holland, fixtures come out and they stay the same unless something important happens or something unknown happens. And I think in England, it works the same. If Liverpool, Manchester City is on the 25th of November, I don't know if it is, but just to give an example, the date and time doesn't change anymore. And that's what I can't understand. I don't understand.
No, it's one thing that baffles me, and I think especially, for example, looking at La Liga, the first division, the timings for El Clasico were confirmed yesterday, and that is a month before. If you look at the return fixture for Arsenal versus Manchester City at the Emirates, which we've just had in the last week, that would have already been confirmed, and that's not until 2025. So I completely agree with you, Chris.
It's always the fans who suffer the consequences of it, isn't it? And especially the foreign fans, but I also think the Spanish fans, because I am a season ticket holder, so for me it's no problem. But for you, slightly different. But you are in Spain as well. If you want to go to Malaga, you have to wait till last minute to be able to book. Then you have to find tickets. Then you have to. I don't know. It's ridiculous, but it is what it is.
It is. It is. Not much we can do about it, but protest. Elche at the weekend, Saturday at 9 o'clock, if I'm not wrong, off the top of my head, Chris. I assume you're going. I assume you're going.
Saturday, tomorrow, 9 o'clock, yes.
What are your feelings? Looking at how we've started the season. We've started the season unbeaten. We got that late penalty save against Granada, and then it's been games where I think we've done well, but we've still got levels to reach yet. How, looking at this team that we're facing, Elche, they've not had the best start to the season. Are you confident of a result?
I think talking to Liam, especially yesterday, I'm a bit more worried than I was throughout the week because Elche doesn't score a lot of goals. They are in 14th position on the table. They scored 6 goals, had 8 goals against them. But then Segunda is Segunda. Elche is a club that likes to have the ball, but don't have real attacking players to finish it. So they're lacking on their attack, but they like to have the goal. So Liam said, and I believe him, but because he's the guy with the knowledge, that we can expect a Malaga which won't have the ball, and it will probably Elche throughout the game, keeping the ball, having control of the ball. So difficult game, I think.
Difficult, and I think every game at this level is always going to be difficult. You look, as you said, they've not started the season brilliantly. 2 wins against Cordoba and Mirandes, most recently, 1-0 win. They've struggled away from home. They've had 2 games away from home. They've lost both of them. That goes in Malaga's favour. Obviously, we know how well and how many fans have come to the La Rosaleda this season. It's been, I think, out of Segunda, the highest average attendance so far, I believe. And, when you compare the other teams in the first division, it's 7th, I think, overall. I remember reading from a stat not too long ago. So those are looking in Malaga's favour. But obviously, they do have a player that we are aware of, Alex Febas, who unfortunately isn't playing as much as he would have liked. Chris, I don't know, did you see his comments in the week about what he expects from the reception that he's going to get on Saturday night?
He's a bit afraid, isn't he? He would understand if people are not happy seeing him. I don't know. I've been thinking a lot about Alex Febas last week. And he was one of the better players in the season, which we obviously relegated. And he was always a joy to watch. But I also had some comments about him that he was like... So I can say it now because we're playing against him. That he was like sex without coming.
I never expect anything less when I have Chris Marquez on the podcast.
But it's an amazing player. You're really enjoying it. But it always ends in nothing. It always ends in a deception. That's a bit Alex Febas for me. And then I was thinking, is he really that great? Because to not be a key player for Elche says a lot. And then I think, is he really a great player, or is it easy to be outstanding in a relegation team?
Yeah, I mean, there's elements of that. I remember, obviously, Nick Bell was a big fan of him, and I think he was probably one of the leading lights in that midfield. And I think when we signed him, it was almost a case of, wow, we didn't really expect to sign this sort of player. He was quite exciting. Obviously, he'd come from Mallorca, and yeah, I think there is an element of that, of when you're playing in a relegation team, obviously the quality of performances aren't going to be as good, and if you're able to put your head above the level of the rest, then you will shine. To run over what he said,
it's also a very nice skill to have.
Yes,
because when everybody's laying down, it was him and Lago Junior, for example, two players, and probably I can name another one more, who were pretty good actually.
Yeah, no, it's one of those things that yes, you could say that he shone more and we noticed it more because the others around him weren't so good. But like you said, Chris, you still have to shine and you still have to perform, and he did well to do that.
And because that's the other thing I was thinking, maybe because the rest wasn't so great, we didn't see his full potential yet, and maybe because of this, his career went a bit downwards. He might have lost I don't know, some confidence, or I don't know.
It's a very good point. I think when you look at it, it's been the case with, I think, look at Roberto. I think he's probably one of the prime examples for Malaga over the last couple of years. I remember before he went on loan to Barça Athletic, we perhaps weren't really enamored by him. We weren't enamored by him at all, I don't think. Towards the beginning of last season, well, before last season, I think we were all quite upset's the wrong word, but a bit sort of flat about the feeling of going into a season with Roberto as our main striker. Yes, Dione was probably the marquee signing in that case, but yeah, you're right. You look at the performances that Roberto had last season, he was fantastic, arguably Malaga's best.
But Roberto got really lucky, I think, because the season Malaga got relegated, he was playing for Barcelona B. And how would his career look now if he didn't go to Barça B and stayed at Malaga that season? Would he also make the 20 plus goals last season?
Perhaps he would have made a move to another side. Yeah. No, it's one of those if, buts, and maybes. What would have happened? Yeah. What could have, would have, should have.
In football, you'll never know.
No, exactly. So, and well, it's interesting to see how these players go. And yeah, I think Alex Febas was a good player, and obviously, I don't think he'll get a bad reception. Do you?
Not for me. I don't know. He played for Malaga. I think he didn't play that good. I don't think anybody deserves a bad reception because everybody wants to win, don't they?
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't know any football player who thinks like, oh, let us lose today or let us relegate, please. I mean, should have been a horrible season for every footballer. I mean, you have, besides yourself not performing, you have the pressure of the club, the pressure of the fans. It must be a horrible situation. So who can you blame in a relegation? I don't know. I think if I would have to name one person to blame, it would be maybe Manolo Gaspar, because the team he put together wasn't very well balanced.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think you're right. And well, who knows what would have happened if Alex Febas would have stayed? Just to clarify what he did say, he said in an interview with Carusel Malaga, I watched the Nastic match at home with my wife and I was suffering. That thorn in my side never goes away, but at least I thought that what I had done wrong had been fixed by others. I got half a weight off my shoulder. I was very happy for everyone. I would understand any kind of reception. I understand everything from a place of respect. I have been very happy on a personal level. I'm very proud to have played for Malaga. Not everyone can say that. So, nice words. Yeah, he obviously seemed to have enjoyed his time at the club.
But and I don't want, because what we are doing is creating content about a football club. But I'm always a bit more with football players' words and managers' words, because when you get this interview, he probably already thought, like, what can I say to be on a good page? You know what I mean? He's not going to say,
so I don't get booed. So I don't get booed.
Yeah, I didn't really mind. Yeah, I played there half season, but yeah, it is what it is. We relegated. Well, they went on with their lives and I went on with their lives. And yeah, I don't know. Didn't really care. Didn't really watch Tarragona. Good to see him back. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I know what you mean.
I saw today a Dutch podcast I watch every week. And this week's episode, because it's a podcast made by footballers. One is still active. One retired last season, is now this coach, the manager of the B team of Excelsior. And another one stopped at an early age because he couldn't handle the pressure. And the guy said, when a manager would talk before a match or after a match and would say, like, oh, you have to do it for the fans because they've traveled a lot and they paid a lot of money for this ticket or paid a lot of money for this trip, then he would think to himself, yeah, but I've never asked them to come visit me doing my job. You know what I mean? I've never asked fans to come. If you want to see me play, it's fine. But he was so open about it that you think, like, are players and managers always saying what they think, or are they giving political answers? And I think the last is the case.
Yeah, I think it is. It's nice to see a sort of certain aspect of honesty from players, and I don't think you see it a lot. You're right, and it's refreshing to hear that. And perhaps sometimes the truth hurts as fans, but I'd much rather hear the truth than something that they don't mean. Moving on to, well, perhaps more of the side of things that we know we're confident about talking, and we know our stuff when it comes to Malaga. Do you expect any changes to the team on Saturday? Obviously, this season they'll come thick and fast, the games. We look at how it's gone this season. It's been a good season, I think, so far. That's fair to say. We look at unbeaten start of the season. Yes, we've probably drawn a few too many. There are performances that we could have improved on. I think if you'd have said to us at the beginning of the season, after 6 games, you'll be unbeaten, I think we would have all said, take it. Would you make any changes just to run through the starting lineup against Granada. It was Alfonso Herrera in goal. I think that's a given. We haven't talk about that. Dani Sanchez at left back, Aine Galilea and Nelson Monte at the back, with Carlos Puga on the right. Manu Molina, Luismi, Antonio Antonito, Aaron Ochoa Maloney, Yanis Rahmani on the right, and Dione up top. Would you make any changes to that side, Chris?
A difficult question, because if you're going to change something, you have to change it for the better. And I think in the last, in every match, I think we were pretty good, actually. So maybe the only match we weren't great and we weren't the better team is against Cordoba.
Mm-hmm.
But we were the better side last Saturday. We were unlucky because you play against the Granada, who has attacking players. They have strikers who, I don't know, give them 5 minutes in a match and they will teach you how to play some good attacking football. But you also have to keep in mind that Granada's budget is way higher than Malaga's budget. So would I change something? I don't think I would change anything, because I don't think any changes would be better. But maybe looking at the age of some players, maybe it's good to give, I don't know, Ochoa Maloney a bit of rest.
Out of perhaps, I know we would have gone through this all, thinking about this game in our heads and what we could have done better against Granada, and that's past games now. Looking at perhaps the players that we could bring in and what maybe we lacked against Granada, are there any players on the bench that you would like to see more of that haven't perhaps played as much as you thought they would have?
I want to see more of Lobete. I think Yanis Rahmani hasn't really shown yet what he can do or is at this level yet. So I'm interested to see Lobete, a bit more of Lobete. Costel is getting better by the week, but I also think that Dione should be our first striker. And maybe, but that's maybe a wild dream, I would like to see a 4-4-2 with Costel and Dione.
Do you think, touching on that, do you think that perhaps, obviously Dione's been good this season. I think he's been, as I said, the leading light of that attack. Do you think that he's perhaps on occasions been a bit isolated up top on his own?
Yes, but I think the difference with Dione this season and last season is this season as a striker, he also has to run much less than he did last season. So he can fully put his focus on attacking. And that's something he couldn't last season because he played in the winger position where he also was a bit responsible of going back. So I think this suits him very well. I think sometimes he's isolated a bit. But I also see a Malaga this season who creates more danger in actual chances than last season. Last season we saw a lot of danger, but it always in a lot of occasions it led to nothing. And this season, and I don't know if it's me or that it feels that way, I see a Malaga with much more chances and much more shots on target. That's how it feels for me.
Now, looking at the game on Saturday, two questions really. First of all, do you think, it's 11 o'clock on Saturday, the game's finished, and we come away with anything other than, do you think, would you be happy if we came away with a point on Saturday, or do you think are you coming into this game thinking I would only be happy with the 3 points?
I always find that difficult because
if you score a last-minute equaliser, you're like, I'll take that. That's good. Yeah.
No, but we are a bit biased, aren't we?
We are.
So
but I think some of these games
that's difficult. I'm never happy with the draw. At first, I wasn't happy last Saturday either. But then Sunday, I think like, wow, a point against Granada is a pretty good result playing away. With this Elche, would I have the same feeling on Sunday? Well, maybe not. Yes, maybe not. I don't think so. I think I won't be happy.
Okay. Now,
Because
leading
the league, it is a difficult match. And Liam said yesterday that he and Alex are doing a bit of a away game predictions. And Liam said 0-0. And Alex Fitzpatrick said that Elche is going to take away the 3 points from Malaga.
wow,
So-
did he give a score or did he just say Elche to win?
I don't remember. So, I mean, they know Segunda better than we do because they do a Segunda show. And if you never listened, go and listen. It's called the Spanish Segunda show. They're also on the Sports Social Podcast Network. It's the second time I have it right. I've been practicing yesterday. The Sport Podcast Social Network.
It's a bit of a twister.
Go and take a listen. Go and have a listen because it's a really nice podcast. They're also on Patreon now. I said yesterday 1-0 for Malaga.
1-0 for Malaga. Okay.
But it's a difficult match.
It is. I think, looking at, okay, that leads into my second question then perfectly. And this is a very optimistic question, does 3 points on Saturday night put us in real contention for a playoff spot, or is it too early to say, and are we getting way too excited for September?
We are 7 matches in. It's 42 matches.
Yeah.
36 to go. I think we shouldn't even look at the table. We have to totally forget about the table and only look at points. How many points left to reach the 50 points? I think that should be the main focus. We only have 40 points to go, if I'm right. I think we have now 10 points. 40 points to go. That is our focus, and every point we gain more, it's beautiful, and maybe the total can bring us at the end of the season in playoffs. But the main focus should be 50 points, stay in Segunda División, and then I think that should be the focus for Malaga.
What a very political answer from you, Chris.
No, but it's a realistic answer because we have been unbeaten now 14 matches in a row. It's beautiful, isn't it? Real Madrid is on 35. I saw 35. Yep. Maybe you can do something about that. Maybe you can. And then we only have, and we are unbeaten 14.
Yes, 14 in the league. Yes. Well,
yeah, so we're the second club. The second most unbeaten club in Spanish football after Real Madrid.
Sounds good, doesn't it?
Crazy. But I'm also going to kill that dream because this is Segunda, and in Segunda you can lose to everyone. And we're not
doing 35 games.
and we're not going to play another 5 matches without losing. And that is fine. Yeah. That's fine. That's totally okay. Did we play the big teams yet? I don't think we have played the big team yet. Maybe Granada, but you still have to play Oviedo. It's coming in October.
La Coruña.
La Coruña is not doing very well this season, but La Coruña is always difficult. You have to play there. What other teams do we have?
Almeria, we have to play. Cádiz, we have to play. We have to play Castellón still. We're still yet to play Racing Santander, Zaragoza. We're Levante. So some very tough teams in the run-up. Sporting de Gijón. Even the teams in the bottom, Tenerife, Racing de Ferrol, Cartagena. Obviously, we played Racing de Ferrol in the opener, but every game is a tough game, no matter where the team is in the table.
Yeah, and maybe because we played against Albacete. I think it was the second match of the season or the third.
Second,
And they
it was
were
yes, third.
yeah, and they were top of the league at that moment, and we won against them. So of course that gives you a boost when you're playing against the team which are leading the whole table. But then you also have it was after three matches played this season. Then next home game we played against Huesca. At that moment they were top of the league, and we won that also. So that gives you a boost, but also changes your mindset a bit that you are the big guy in the league. But I think we have to change that chip back again maybe a bit and be more humble.
Okay. Now, having looked at those games, one sort of final question that's coming to my mind. If you had to give, this is very early, if you had to give the performance so far this season, how we've done, a grade out of 10, what would you give us?
That's a tough question because from what point of view are you watching it from a team who just got promoted to third division, or are you looking at to be like for Malaga Club de Football where there should be? I mean, how do I judge this?
From where you see it, from what you expected at the beginning of the season and how we're doing so far.
Oh, then a 9 or 10. Then a 9 or 10. We are seventh on the table. I mean, you got to be honest, but that's difficult when you're biased. I know I'm watching you sometimes on African TV. Why are you laughing? You're on African TV.
Yes. No, I just know what's coming. I know what's coming.
Then I see you on African TV with your bow tie and your suit. But that's much more easier because the teams you talk about, you don't support those teams. You know what I mean? You text me like, Chris, how's Feyenoord doing? Well, you know what I mean? And then it's easy for you to talk about and to give your opinion.
Yeah.
But when you're here on the Gearycast and you're a Malaga fan, and we're all Malaga fans, it's more difficult because you don't want to be biased. Although we are, I always try to make it not so much of a real fan podcast, but an objective podcast, which is difficult. When you're Chris Marquez, it's even more difficult because I always have very strong opinions. I would say 9 or 10 for me. What would you give it?
I think we've done fantastically. I think we shouldn't get ahead of ourselves. Like you said, we've just been promoted from the third division. This is a relatively new squad. There are some young players, inexperienced players. I think, I've said it from the beginning. I think Luke said it. I think we've all said it. The expectation should be survive this season and then, go on from there. So I think, from that, we're doing brilliantly. We're just outside the playoffs. If we make the playoffs, amazing. That's brilliant. But if we don't, I'm not going to be upset. I think what we're doing at the moment, we're taking every game as it comes. As you said, that's all we can do. Try and win each game. Try and get the best out of each game. So I think I give it an 8. I think there are a few things that I would like to see improved on, performance-based. But in terms of how we're doing, points-wise, I couldn't complain at all.
Me too. I think the city is behind the team, and you feel that it's like last season. Like it feels like we are on wings or something. I don't know. We have Antonito Cordero. What could happen to us?
Yes. No, it feels brilliant. And it feels like, I think last season we needed that to get everyone back into the season before. I wouldn't use the word toxic, but it felt, I don't know, it felt a bit like,
It was toxic. It was very toxic. It was toxic, not so much between the fans, but with the fans and the club. Within the club, it was very toxic. And things are now calm. Everybody's happy. People are enjoying it. Malaga Club de Football is enjoying, and that's important as well, because when your board members are enjoying, and the people working at the marketing office or working in the shop, working I don't know, maintaining the grass. If you have a good vibe in the club, that helps a lot, and it also gets back to the players because things are easy.
Yeah, no, I think we needed that reset. I think we had, as you said, a poor season, got relegated, we got promoted, we got the feeling back together, and it feels like a more of a close knit feeling. And yeah, it's good to have that feeling back. Well, to wrap things up, to come to a conclusion, just to run through the fixtures for this weekend tonight. Albacete are playing Deportivo La Coruña. Tomorrow, we've got Cádiz Eldense, Mirandés Huesca, Sporting Gijón against Real Zaragoza. Malaga obviously are playing against Elche at 9 o'clock at La Rosaleda. Levante Almería, Burgos Granada, Castellón Tenerife, Córdoba Racing de Ferrol, and Real Oviedo versus Eibar are on Sunday. And the last fixture of the match week is on Monday evening, Racing Santander against Cartagena. And to remind everyone of the table, obviously, Racing Santander top, 1 point ahead of Real Zaragoza. The playoffs, Burgos, Huesca, Eibar, Levante, and Malaga just 1 point behind the playoffs in 7th. And the relegation zone, Tenerife at the bottom with 2 points, Racing de Ferrol, Cartagena, and Deportivo La Coruña making up the other 3. To finish, Chris, Malaga Elche, what's your prediction at 7:30 Friday afternoon, 24 hours before kickoff?
1-0 Malaga, and I have a question for you in a moment.
Okay, well, you can ask it now. I'm sort of wrapping things up. So
no, I want to hear your prediction first.
Okay. I'm going to be bold. I'm going to say 2-0 Malaga. I think, we've had a good performance. We've done well so far this season, and I think we can carry that on the way Elche have performed. I think we can use that to our advantage, especially how they've done away from home. So, yeah, 2-0 Malaga.
Okay, here comes my question, because I've heard something today in the same podcast I listened to, the Core podcast, best podcast there is, after the Gearycast, is this thing. When they tell you on the pitch to go deep, in Holland, that means going forward. And what they said on the podcast today is that in English, that's reversed. Going deep is going back. Is that true?
Yeah. So when you say to someone, it depends on the context, but if you were talking about someone going forward, you would say go long, which means, go forward. If you're saying they're playing deep, that would mean they're playing more defensive. So you'd saying that is where the word deep line playmaker comes from, because he's, off the attack, he's a bit deeper, or, they're playing a deeper line of defense. They're sitting back a bit. So in English terminology, when we use the word deep, it means we're more defensive or playing further back towards our own goal.
In the Netherlands, is
it the other way around? Okay.
The other way around. Deep is going up the pitch. So I'm surprised players like Dennis Bergkamp and Robin van Persie had such a great success in England. But it also might explain why other Dutch players, which was expected a lot of, like maybe Ziyech, for example, the Moroccan Dutch midfielder, maybe that's why he didn't succeed at Chelsea.
Maybe he was just hearing the manager say go deep, and he was like, all right.
He was going forward, and then
what's he doing going up front? Well, you learn something new every day. What is the word for deep in this context in Dutch?
Deep.
Oh, okay, there you go.
It's spelled differently. It's with D-I-E-P.
I-E-P. Okay. Well, there you go. You learn something new every day. That just about wraps things up. It is, as I said, 7:45 on a Friday afternoon, Central European time. Malaga kickoff tomorrow at 9 o'clock at La Rosaleda. Before I finish, actually, do we know anything about this game being on TV in the UK? I haven't read anything. Is it on Premiere or is not this week? Because I know the Granada game wasn't it?
And that's the difficult thing when you're not in the UK or elsewhere in Europe, or in Spain. You don't really notice, but it's always on the pages we don't mention. There's a big one. It's the amount of days that goes into a year, and it's combined with a thing where you can lose a lot of money with.
It's that site that won't be mentioned that Luke's always mentioning.
Yeah. Yes.
There you go. Well, if you're
and don't forget, because we have great news, big news, really big news.
Wow, this is a surprise even for me.
If you would look at our group's WhatsApp, you would probably know this. We are nominated for the 4th time for the Football Content Awards.
I did know this, yes. I thought it was going to be something different. Sorry. Yes, we have
4 nominations. This time we're nominated for Best International Podcast.
There you go. Do you want to tell the people how they can vote for us?
Yes. Go to the FCA's on Instagram and search the picture for Best International Podcast. Tag us at GiriCast in the comments. Leave your comment. Press send. And you have voted. And you can vote through the website of the Football Content Awards. We know we probably are not going to win because we did it for the last 4 years, but it's great to be in it, isn't it?
It is. I'm just doing it here now. If you type in FCA Awards on Google, it's the first one that comes up, FCA voting. You click on that link. It says, take me to a category, and you select Best International Podcast. You have a look through there's all sorts of, there's Best in Video, Best in Women's Football, Best in Social, Best Podcast, Best Club Content Creator. You have to scroll all the way down. I'm actually struggling to find it here myself, so maybe it isn't that easy. No, it is very easy.
Who are you voting for, Alex?
Say again, sorry?
Who are you voting for?
It's a tough one, actually.
Make up your mind already.
I'm not really sure. I'm going to have to think about it. But yes, so Best International Content Creator, is that the official? No. Or Best International
Podcast. You know what a podcast is?
I do know what a podcast is.
I mean, you're a TV guy now.
Yes.
Do you want to expose a bit where you're working, where we can watch you?
Yes, well, you can watch me on YouTube, mostly Monday through Thursday on YouTube. We talk about all the goings on in football. You can watch me on, as of, I'm fairly certain, next Friday. You can watch me on YouTube as well. We're introducing a new show. You'll see me on social media on the weekends, whether that be at a Real Madrid game. You may see some videos of me Sunday night coming out, interviewing some Atletico Madrid / Real Madrid players, potentially. So you'll see me everywhere. You can see me social media. Sporty TV is where you want to go. If you want to watch
YouTube,
it's on YouTube, yes, and you can watch it anywhere. It's not blocked. So you can watch it on YouTube. You can, have me in your ears as you're going to work, and yeah, if you can't get enough of my dulcet tones, although it has been a while since I've been on the GiriCast, so maybe you've been missing me for some bizarre reason.
And they made a pretty nice character of him.
Yes, they got me wearing a bow tie, everything.
Based on another sports journalist.
So, yes. Well, you have been listening to the GiriCast on the Sports Social Podcast Network. Tough one, a bit of a tongue twister. Thank you very much for listening. Chris, thank you for joining me on this repeat of the recording.
Yeah, thank you. I hope I pressed the record button now.
Just checking. Yes, you did. Oh, no, you didn't.
Or else we have to do it a third time, and that would be a bit ugly. Yes. I'll say vamos Malaga. Vamos.
Malaga indeed. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Malaga against Elche tomorrow at 9 o'clock local time. Send us in your thoughts on Twitter, your predictions in the comments on YouTube. Follow us on all the socials. Join our Telegram group where we talk about all things Malaga. And yes, thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you next week.